I'm going to do a short video on an app that really helps with tracking macronutrient intake. I think interesting to see how many net carbohydrates we consume on a daily basis. Um, it's surprising, I think, how many a lot of us take in. I know before I started to track it, I was eating a ton, even though I thought I was eating well, and I was eating a lot of nutrient dense foods. But just that excessive carbohydrate intake, I think, can just create a lot of inflammation in your body. It tends just to not allow you to be as fit and feel as well as you can. So, there's a lot of reasons, that are deeper, and you can get into things about I think illness and why that potentially could be tied into over consuming carbohydrates, but just simply I think it's something that this app does well. It also looks at overall calorie intake. It can help you with basic stuff like weight loss goals, but essentially it's very easy to use, and I think it makes you help. I think it helps you to make more thoughtful nutrition decisions. So again, the app is called Carb Manager. I'm going to try to tie my. I'm going to try to. Uh, Pardon me. I'm going to try to share my phone screen. The wrong button there. This is going to just take a second. Thought I had everything all ready to roll, but apparently not. Let me try this here. Give it another go. Now we got it. Okay. So this is something that, if you have if you have an Android phone, go to the Google Play Store. If you have an iOS device, go to your App Store. I'm going to just show you. I already have the app downloaded, but again, it's called like carbohydrate, Carb Manager. You'll see it. Pardon me, I've got to move the toolbar here out of the way. So on Carb Manager, it's this thing. It has kind of a greenish tint to it, a CM logo. Carb Manager. It's a keto diet app. Again, don't have to get deep into ketosis and what that is. It tends to be, I think, something that is thrown around way too much, like different things about a keto diet. I'm going to say Carb Manager is a very good tool for just making mindful food decisions and not over consuming, a micronutrient, or I'm sorry, a macronutrient food group that could lead to unwanted weight gain and could lead to certain health conditions. So just in general, it's nice to be mindful. So I'm going to open mine. You download it if you don't have it on your phone. I'm going to scroll to the top. This is what I've actually intaken today. And I think a lot of people would say, like, oh my God, 4,700 calories, that's huge. I do have this tied into my watch that tracks my calories. I've also burned a tremendous amount of calories today. So, like, just straight up, this is what I've eaten. Some people may think it's too much, but I feel very good. So let me just walk you through how to use this. I personally don't start eating until roughly 12 p.m. I stop eating around 10 p.m. I don't start eating again until 12 p.m. I've got roughly 14 hours where I try not to eat, kind of a fasting period where I drink water, obviously, but I do not eat. So for my breakfast, I don't really log anything because I don't eat anything during that time. For my lunch, as you can see, I had a fairly large helping of macadamia nuts, raw. Uh, that's why there's so many calories that I've been taking, because I eat things like macadamia nuts. You can look up, if you'd like, what a dang bar is. Essentially, it's like seeds and nuts kind of ground into a protein bar of types. I had a couple of those. I ate something called a keto cup just for simplicity's sake. It's almost like a Reese cup as dark chocolate made of something called cacao. It's like a cocoa bean with a coconut filling. I find it to be very good. Some people, it's maybe too rich for them or too heavy, but that's kind of how I got my eating started around this 12 p.m. timeline. I had some more macadamia a little bit later, actually, in the afternoon. For dinner, I had something called an All-American burger. It's a meatless burger by this company called Dr. Prager's. Again, I find it to be very good. Certainly, your choice on that is your choice. Ate guacamole a few times, had some kale chips, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I ate, and that's just being very straightforward. I want you to see something here. There's a pie chart that shows the macronutrient breakdown of what I've eaten. I think you're going to be shocked at how much fat I consumed. Okay, when I touch the red, 81% of what I ate today was fat. So macronutrients, protein, carbohydrates, fat. Okay, 81% of those macronutrients that I took in were fat calories. Only 5.7% of what I've taken in today have been carbohydrates, and then 13.3 protein. So you can see, definitely have a decent amount of protein, have a huge amount of fat, and very little carbohydrates in terms of macronutrient intake. And I did take in a lot of calories. I don't always do that, but I did today. Needed some energy. I knew it was going to be a long day, and I've actually moved around quite a bit. So it all balances out. Pardon me. I have my settings where I should take in 3,012 calories per day to maintain weight. Well, that metric is absolutely right, but it doesn't factor in because that's just kind of like a base metabolic rate. If I just sat still pretty much all day, which I don't, then that makes sense for maintaining. I move pretty frequently. I work out pretty intensely every single day. So I've taken in a little bit, and I'm sure that I've taken in more than I burned out. But the level of what I burned out and what I've taken in is much closer than 3,000 out and 47 in. You have to know yourself well. And you cannot take in this many calories if you do not have a very strong sense of what you've done in terms of burnout. I want to show you something. Just because I have a watch that tracks this, sorry about that. Just because I have a watch that tracks this, I can show you on my phone how many calories I burned out. I burned so far today. This says 2,000 calories, and you're going to say, Zach, I thought you said you burned a lot of calories. I actually have. I forgot to wear my watch during the middle portion of the day, so it's not captured all of it. The 2,000 primarily was captured this morning when I worked out very aggressively, and I've moved around a little bit since then, but I can tell you I burned nearly 2,000 extra calories. So I have about 4,000 calories burned. Let me see what my Monday looks like, if I can go to it. Let me see. Okay. On Monday, I didn't wear the watch the whole day, but I had about 3,000 burned, and I moved a bit more today than I did then. So I know, just because I have a fairly good sense of like how much activity I put in, um, that I'm okay with eating the amount that I've eaten. So it's just important to kind of have a feel for yourself. I know when I've eaten too much for my activity level, but I love, and I use the iWatch. Of course, there's other products that are good. But I love being able to see, okay, this is how much I've actually moved and the calories that I burn. And then when we use the Carb Manager app, you can see how much you've taken in if you've recorded everything. Okay, so that's an overview from the highest level of Carb Manager in terms of its value, especially if you have activity tracking. But you're probably thinking like, well, how do I put anything in here? I'm going to go to tomorrow. Okay, this is all gray because obviously I have not logged anything for the next day today. But let's pretend you wanted to log something. Okay, you get the Carb Manager app. I know I said I don't eat breakfast. Certainly feel free to eat breakfast for you. But in order to log something, you're going to touch the three dots. So, like if you're in that breakfast row, there's a three vertical dot button. You're going to touch that, and it makes this menu appear. You're going to then touch Add Foods, which is the top selection on that menu. And then you're going to be able to search. A lot of people eat eggs for breakfast. I personally don't do that, but I can totally understand why people do. And it's actually very good in terms of its macronutrient composition. And it's extremely low in net carbohydrates. So let's put in eggs. Okay. If you see egg cooked or fried eggs or scrambled eggs, and I know a lot of people like scrambled eggs, so I'm going to touch scrambled eggs. If you look, it has a grade to it, a keto egg. Why in the heck does it get a keto egg? Well, it has 1 net gram of carbohydrate for 1 egg. So if you cracked 1 egg and scrambled it, you would be taking in 1 net carbohydrate. It has 1 carbohydrate, no grams of fiber, so it ends up being 1 net carbohydrate. That's very good. It also has a nice amount of fat and protein. It's fairly balanced in that. It's a very complete food in terms of its macronutrient composition. Let's pretend you had 2 eggs. You would be consuming, because I guess it's about 1.5 net carbohydrates per egg, you'd be taking in 3 net carbohydrates. Usually people pair their egg with some type of meat, and that's totally fine. And I know some people will say, oh boy, that's a little unhealthy. But look at the net carbohydrate value if I do sausage. Okay. So, whoop, I could spell it right. Okay. So let's just pretend that you ate sausage, okay? A beef or a pork sausage. Again, not something I personally eat, but let's just say you did. And we would look at it on an ounce basis, right? Let's pretend you ate a 4-ounce sausage, pardon me. You would be consuming, again, 3 net carbohydrates. Your fats are high, but if you're eating it from uh, kind of a known source and you trust that it's organic and there's no antibiotics and the other range of negative things that could be involved with it, it could actually be fairly healthy. Okay. So I'm going to act as if you took in 4 ounces of sausage. I'm going to close my Find Foods by hitting the X at the top. If that was your breakfast, 2 eggs and 4 ounces of sausage, you would have taken in only 6 grams, 6 net carbohydrate, or 6 grams of carbohydrates net. Okay. That is important because it really shows kind of the impact that it's having on your blood sugar. And it's also showing that you're taking in some nice fiber, which helps kind of flush your system. So it's very key. And I think when you start to kind of gauge how your body is functioning, when you're very mindful of your carbohydrate intake, the net carbohydrate intake, you're going to notice a really, I think, noticeable uh, feeling that your stomach's reducing in size. You're not feeling bloated. You're not feeling like you're retaining water. you're feeling very lean very quickly. You have the feeling of it, even if you're not leaning out like where it's ultra dramatic. I think you're going to feel lighter. You're going to feel less water kind of retention. You're just going to feel kind of that lean, flushed feeling, and it's a really good feeling, especially if you couple this with some level of fasting, a known time period where you're going to eat and a known stop period where you're not going to eat for an extended period of time, hopefully 10 to 12 hours at minimum, where you are just absolutely not eating. And then you come out and you're very thoughtful with your net carbohydrate intake. And net carbohydrate is carbohydrates minus fiber. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm going to move to this tomorrow example. So we hit the vertical 3 dots on the right-hand side of breakfast to enter. The scrambled egg and the sausage. For lunch, let's pretend I had mixed greens. So mixed green lettuce, 4 cups. That's fairly substantial. I'm going to be a little bit up there, and I'm going to say 6 cups of mixed greens. That's 4 net carbohydrates. Let's add in some olive oil, and let's add in some salt. Let's add in, and the way I'm adding in, I'm swiping from left to right across the food item in my search because these are things that I frequently eat. Let's even add in some macadamia, and heck, let's add in another egg. I'm going to this time do a cooked egg. And I'm just going to do not 3, but 1. Let's pretend it's a hard-boiled egg. Okay. So for lunch, look at what we've added. We've added 6 cups of mixed greens. That can be romaine lettuce and Swiss chard and kale or spinach, etc. All that, 6 cups total. That's a big salad. We've put some olive oil on it, so it has a nice oil dressing. Thrown some sea salt in there to have some good flavor. Macadamia for some crunch. Egg for a protein. That lunch in and of itself is 14 net carbohydrates. I'm only up to 20 of the 75 I've allowed myself if I were to intake this. And again, some of the foods I don't eat, but that's okay. That's something that you certainly can make your choice on. But if I would do this, I would only have taken in 20 net carbohydrates. And look at my bar. This green bar means this, like I have more net carbohydrates I could consume. I also have to be mindful of my calories. I'd be at 2,100 at that level. So it's just nice. It gives you a pie chart. What percent of what I'm eating is fat? What percent of what I'm eating is protein? What percent of what I'm eating is carbohydrates? It gives a nice breakdown, shows you the calories you've intaken, shows you the calories that you've set, in terms of your weight management goal. How close or far are you away from exceeding or, reaching that level? A very nice breakdown on all the things that you need to do in order to control your weight, increase your health, just have a very thoughtful approach to eating. So again, a big suggestion of mine is to use the Carb Manager tool, not only to manage your carbohydrates, but to just really monitor over all the nutrition decisions you're making and just get in the habit of marking your food down. I think it helps you to just be more mindful with all the impulse eating that we tend to do, especially when we're under stress. It really helps to cut down on that. So that's what I wanted to share with you for the moment. So download Carb Manager. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to share some more insight. But that's a basic run through of how to use Carb Manager. Hopefully that's helpful and you're able to do some good things with your nutrition. Talk to you soon. Thanks.